Cable Bahamas has always been considered the innovator.
People can have confidence in Cable Bahamas as a mobile operator because of our past history. We've proven to the Bahamian community that we are in fact able to manage additional services as a telecommunications company.
Customers expect the best from Cable Bahamas.
The technology that we bring is revolutionary technology because we know that the Bahamian public, they deserve it, and Cable Bahamas is here to bring it to them.
We are ready. Turn us on.
The Urban Renewal Commission slams the Auditor General's report. A Bahamian worker dies on the Bahama construction site. A former PLP MP urges the Prime Minister to cut scandalous cabinet ministers loose, plus carnival companies reporting dismal costume sales. We've got those stories and a whole lot more tonight. I'm Vonique Toot and NB12 starts now. Tonight, misinformed, erroneous, and ignorant. That's how co-chairs of the Urban Renewal Commission described the Auditor General's report on government small home repairs program. One day after the Nassau Guardian published a report which gave a scathing review of that program, co-chairs Algernon Allen and Cynthia Pratt went on the attack, saying the report was shoddily done and shouldn't be taken seriously. Dana Smith tells us more.
Urban Renewal co-chair Algernon Allen said the commission will not allow such a powerful social innovation like urban renewal to be kicked around like some cheap political football. He said the commission is of the view that the Office of the Auditor General was ill-advised and the work was shoddily done. He said the audit contains monumental errors.
I am of the firm view that the Auditor General has failed to appreciate the philosophy of urban renewal. More specifically, the philosophy and policy of the small home repairs program, thus making the erroneous statements in his audit report. And despite assurances to review, amend, and correct the report, it seems evident that what was leaked, he has failed to redress those monumental errors.
The report, which was compiled by Auditor General Terrence Bastian, indicated contractors were paid thousands of dollars but failed to complete their work. Contractors were not required to have all-risk insurance. None of the work was sent out for competitive bidding, and required documentation about home ownership or estimated costs was sometimes missing or unsigned. While co-chair Cynthia Mother Pratt asked during the press conference, "Why are we looking at the little things?" She accused the audit of nitpicking, highlighting the bad and overlooking the good of the project.
At this point in our life, you think we're about to get in any skullduggery? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What am I going to do with it? I wasn't a young thief, so I sure ain't going to be no old one. Print that.
Pratt declared the report gives the impression that all of us in here are criminals, while Allen lamented that auditors did not interview the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, or Pratt or himself about the program. He said it's insulting the report was finalized without auditors having called him or Pratt for input. That, he said, bespeaks of work that was shoddily done and ought not to be taken as seriously as it is. But although the commission had harsh words for the Auditor General, they did admit some key points in the audit are correct, such as the contractors lacking in all-risk insurance.
The overwhelming majority of the small home repairs were between $5,000 and $10,000, and small home repairs of that nature have never been required to have insurance.
The commission also agreed that none of the work was sent out for competitive bidding.
Competitive bidding in the small home repairs program was never envisioned, never implemented by the F&M government or the PLP government. Competitive bidding defeats the purpose of the project.
And as for those 11 contractors who were paid $171,000 for work that was either never finished or never done, Commission officials insisted that figure is incorrect. However, they couldn't say exactly what the correct amount is, as costs vary. But offering an explanation as to the incomplete work described in the audit, Deputy Director of Urban Renewal Gregory Butler explained the home repairs program does not do wish lists.
We are now down to 5 contractors that have not completed their scopes of work. One of the things I want to make very, very clear here, and please make it very clear, we do not do your wish list. Your scope of work comes on what are the priorities of your house.
Butler added those contractors who haven't done the work have been given time to get the job done or face potential legal action.
It is so unfair because what is happening here is that urban renewal is being used as their football, and the poor people are caught in the middle. And they will do anything to destroy urban renewal.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Dana Smith.
Tragedy struck at the multi-billion-dollar Bahama development today when a Bahamian worker died on the job. The site was temporarily shut down as police officers conducted preliminary investigations. Simone Davis has the details.
A construction worker lost his life today at Bahama when a regular day at work turned out to be his last. Police officials say they are working closely with Bahama officials to determine if this accident would be classified as an industrial accident. Assistant Commissioner of Police Stephen Dean said it was too early in their investigations to determine exactly what happened.
Police wish to confirm that we are investigating the death of a male here at the premises of Bahama. We can tell you that we are in the early stage of our investigation, and our detectives are on the ground gathering information. We want to determine exactly what happened. So as more information unfolds, we'll be able to come out with a more detailed release as to what's happening. But we are early in the stage of our investigations, and we want to determine exactly what happened. So we are working hand in hand with Bahama officials to come to a successful conclusion in our investigation.
NB12 arrived at the scene shortly after noon as some co-workers were shedding tears as the man was lying on the ground at the site. Officers said they were notified of the incident at around 11:30 a.m. and were exploring the property to investigate how the accident happened.
We can say around about 11:30. That's the time we got the information. And so we don't want to conclude what it is as yet. We want to do our investigations, allow us to do our work. And once we have put all the pieces together, then we will be able to make a determination as to exactly what happened.
Although the man was not identified, Bahama officials described the deceased as a local resident who was working for a third-party contractor. According to Sands, no other workers were injured during that time. However, Sands confirmed that 2 Chinese construction workers were previously killed while working on different construction sites at Bahama. Sands noted that the site would be shut down while police are investigating the incident.
This is an active investigation by the police, so yes, it is. That area is closed at the moment. We have in excess of 4,500 workers on site and the entire project at this point in time.
Bahama is set to open the first week in May. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
With nearly 20% of surveyed Bahamians listing bad government or corruption as the country's most serious problem, former Progressive Liberal Party MP George Smith is urging Prime Minister Perry Christie to give his cabinet ministers who are not performing their walking papers ahead of the next general election. Smith was responding to the results of an IDB-financed survey in which more than 45% of respondents said they would vote for a candidate or party different from the governing Progressive Liberal Party. The former PLP MP says Prime Minister Christie must deal with those cabinet ministers who are holding his government back.
I would encourage him to recognize those who are performing and probably give them more work to do. And those who are not performing, give them a walking ticket.
Do you think there are some who are not performing?
Absolutely. I believe a cabinet in the Bahamas of more than 13 is too big. I believe 13 of the very best and brightest available to any political party should form the government.
Bahamians were asked to give their opinions on what the most serious problem in the country is. While 39% said crime is the most serious problem, bad governance and corruption also factored high on that list. Smith said that is likely due to Christie's failure to deal with the dead weight in his cabinet. He said while the Prime Minister has worked hard, some of his ministers are not as equally committed to good governance.
Yes, and I believe in those who are doing it ought to be dealt with. And that is probably the hardest job a Prime Minister has. They hold the incumbent party to a higher standard than they hold the opposition. And I believe the Bahamian people have a right to hold the Progressive Liberal Party because of its origin, because of its principal core values to a higher standard than they should hold the FNM to.
According to survey results, only 27.2% said they would vote for an incumbent candidate or party, while another 24.5% said they would not vote at all. Smith says several scandals have distracted from some of the good work the Christie administration has done. Given the disappointment being expressed by many Bahamians, he says he expected those figures to be worse.
No, I'm not surprised by it. As a matter of fact, in some aspects of it, I thought it was a little kinder than one would have been left to believe if one were just listening to the rumors out there and all the public criticism.
10% of respondents said unemployment is the country's most serious problem. Smith says while he is encouraged, he is not convinced the Christie administration has done all it can to tackle joblessness.
We've got 30,000 people living below the poverty level. We've got a high degree of unemployed young people. We've got, and many of those young people feel so marginalized. I look at those things and I see the great challenges that we face. And I sometimes wonder whether we're addressing them as diligently as we ought to.
In other news, officials from the Fire Services branch spent the evening on the scene of a structural fire on Cumberland Street, just north of Government House. Now, check out the video here sent to us from an reporter, Myron Jones. You can see people gathering as officials attempt to extinguish the blaze in that two-story building. Find out more in a later newscast.